Blues Talk. It's glad to see so many of you here tonight. At 8 o'clock, the musical stairs starts, and tonight is the extraordinary Shuffle Pack. And we're fortunate to have the leader, Der Führer, as the band intimately call him, Stewart Constable, who, apart from being a splendid band leader, harmonica player, and singer, and rabble-rouser, has another career in the blues. He's a most respected blues writer. Big Bear have utilised his services already. He's tremendous at writing sleeve notes, liner notes for albums, and he's very authoritative. The first one he did for us was for a band called the Whiskey Brothers, and they never stopped talking about it, how great it is, and they got to play together a few months ago, and that was very nice. So Stuart, where did you first encounter the blues?
It's a strange response. The first blues I ever heard was a Pink Floyd record. There was an album by Pink Floyd called Relics, which was a collection of singles and B-sides and stuff like that. It came out, I think, after Dark Side of the Moon. And there was an odd track on that called Biding My Time. And that was pretty much a straight blues. And finished with a long guitar solo by David Gilmour. And of course, he's a fantastic blues player. And that was really the first time I thought, what's that? So that kind of sowed a seed. I mean, I'd heard the Beatles do Roll Over Beethoven and stuff like that. You get a hint of it, but they weren't really a bluesy band. So the Floyd were the first blues band I heard. But it was really...
age?
That would have been 14, 15. Just after discovering rock music. I'd grown up with pop. I was a T-Rex fan and all that, which is pretty boogie bluesy. But I heard Dark Side of the Moon at school, so we played a track at school, and I just went nuts and thought, what's this? And all the cool guys said, oh, that's Pink Floyd. And I thought, yeah, this is the kind of music I want to get into. And once you get into that, it isn't long when you start discovering rock music like Black Sabbath, and Hawkwind, which were the kind of the bands that were around at the time, you get to Jimi Hendrix. And then once you get to Jimi Hendrix, then the world is your oyster. And what happened was I heard a documentary by Alexis Corner on Radio 1 on a Sunday night, exploring the life of Jimi Hendrix, and he opened it with a sequence showing the roots of Hendrix's style, which included Robert Johnson, Charlie Parker, Charlie Christian, Cooter Williams. Sorry?
Charlie Patton.
No, Charlie Patton. Didn't go back that far. But
Charlie Parker.
No, Charlie Parker. He
played. A bluesman called Charlie Parker.
Well, Parker's Mood. The second take of Parker's Mood is that among as much as anything, because what that contains is the essence of the blues, which is the bend and the slur and the slide between the notes. Even on a sax, Charlie Parker's evoking that sound in that little sequence. But of course it was Robert Johnson that kicked me in the face, and Charlie Christian. And I thought, I need to do more of this.
Were you playing at the time?
I was playing a bit of keyboards. I've never been a great keyboard player. I could bust my way around. I didn't ever have a proper left hand. But because I was a keyboard player and everyone wanted to play drums, bass and guitar especially, I always got a gig. Mm-hmm. So it was great. So I started playing around that time, and then about 2 years later joined my first band.
Joined the band rather than formed it?
Joined the band, yeah.
And what were you playing? What music were you playing?
That was a good old British covers band, pubs, working men's clubs. It was the perfect apprenticeship for somebody who wanted to play music. The guitarist was an American guy, so lots to do with Brothers, lots of Eagles, that kind of stuff. But also hits out the charts. Peter Frampton at that time. This was 75, 76, 77. So, and it was all those hits around then, Southern Brothers and Quiver. But also, Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey, the Birdie song, all of that, anything that would get them dancing in the working men's clubs. And that's a great way to learn your craft.
Some of the bands you mentioned are very, very interesting British bands. I'm surprised you've not mentioned the Rolling Stones.
No, well, never that big a Stones fan, Jim. I know they were important and influential, like the Beatles. Never.
Do they not work? Oh.
No, they're not. They were. Now they're a Stones cover band, you know, and it. Sorry, Mick. I don't think he cares. But you know what I think. But I went through a Stones phase. I bought the right albums: Beggar's Banquet, Sticky Fingers, XR. But I don't listen to them very often. I have to say, I don't think they're a great blues band. They were the only band playing blues when they came through in that way, but they weren't a patch on Graham Bond, Eric Clapton, Fleetwood Mac. Those were blues bands. They would play the kind of blues that I like. The Stones were a poppy blues band. I mean, their version of Red Rooster is all wrong. It's just wrong. It's their version, so it can't be wrong. But it ain't what Howlin' Wolf did. But if it wasn't for the Stones, you know, a lot of this wouldn't have happened. So you can't deny. You know.
So which was the first blues record you ever bought?
The first blues record I ever bought. It was Golden Hour Presents the Blues. $1.99 in Woolworth, something like that. And it had Muddy Waters, not a very good Muddy Waters, a live track from the mid-70s. It was all right. But it had, it was a fantastic album. It had everything on it. It had Lightning Hopkins, John Lee Hooker doing Tupelo, at I think the Spirituals to Swing, something like that. And it just, and all these things, suddenly like Fred McDowell, and a second side of it, a lot of it was extracts from Sam Charles's recordings that he made in the 60s, Chicago, the Blues Today. So you had Buddy Guy, you had Otis Spann, you had Junior Wells, and of course a harmonica player. Well, at that time I wasn't getting into harp, but all that stuff. And those three albums that they did, Chicago Blues Today, those are fantastic gateways into American blues.
And who got you into harmonica? Sonny Boy?
Sonny Boy Williamson II. And that was a cassette I bought, I can't remember which record shop, 100 minutes of the blues. And that's the great thing about cassettes, you could get 100 minutes on you know, between the two sides, whereas you can only get 80 onto an LP. And of course, being a cassette, it broke very quickly because anyway. But that had all the classics: Hoochie Coochie, Rolling Stone, I Just Want to Make Love to You, and then Red Rooster, Tell Me, all the great Wolves, all the great chess players were on there, including Sonny Boy. And that was the first time I heard him. And one track on there, and that was how it felt. You know, a wake up call. And the track on there could cross my heart. That was the one that really made me think, that's the sound.
So when did you first join the blues band?
Not till about 10 years later, 1986, and I formed a blues band. The first band I formed myself was a band called Mr. Charlie, and it was with a mate at work where I was working, Marty Turner, who was a very fine, not him, not Wishbone Ash, another Marty Turner, who was a very fine blues guitar player. And he was the first guitar player I worked with who loved blues and played in that style and had a tone. He had a Les Paul straight through a valve amp, and he had that thing. And he was a fine player. He wasn't a great guitarist, and he would admit that, but he played the blues with real feel and power. It was great. And Mr. Charlie officially never disbanded. We did our last gig perhaps 5 years ago now. But technically we're still in existence. I haven't seen Martin for as long as I can remember, but we used to occasionally get together and do a gig here and there. But that was my first blues band.
Going back to the roots of your writing, did you write professionally before you got involved in the blues?
I've always written advertising. I was in PR and advertising, a bit of journalism, so and marketing, all that kind of stuff. Very un-blues thing to be. But I always had a thing for writing. It got me my first job, and I've always done it. But I always saw myself as a hired gun writer who would just write for money, and a musician for the love of it. I've made a few quid out of music over the years, but the thing that funded my musical career was my day job, which was writing. And it was only relatively late, about 10 years ago, that I decided that I should start writing for fun. And I didn't know anything about anything except the blues, so I started writing about the blues. Little reviews for magazines like Blues in Britain, that kind of thing. And then my first great project was the thing that led me to you eventually, which was the piece I wrote about Jack Morgantini for Living Blues in America.
Jack Morgenstein was?
Morgantini, yeah. But I think still is. I haven't heard how he is.
He's leading for...
I do. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a tale here. If we spin back to 1976, when I was first getting into the blues, and it was Alexis Corner again. Back in the 70s, he did a thing on the telly called The Devil's Music, which is a very good series. There was a book called that as well by Giles Oakley, which was a good book. But in that, Alexis Corner showed film of the bluesmen that were still playing. I can't remember all of them now. But Big Joe Williams, for example, with his 7-string. Who's the piano player? Not Sippy Wallace.
Roosevelt?
No, woman piano player. Real ragged, dirty piano player. She was fantastic, and no teeth, sitting there. She was just great.
50 years earlier, I would have said two-fingered Mamie Days Julie.
Yeah, it'd be something like her. But there was an album of the Devil's Music, which is another great album if you're into the blues. But he showed film of a band called the Aces. Chicago Aces. And he said they are the tightest and yet the loosest band in Chicago. And I'd never heard of them, didn't know anything about them. They were Little Walter backing band, so I had heard them because I had a Little Walter stuff, and I had Julia Wells, they backed him as well. So unwittingly, I'd heard them play. And there was film of Louis Myers, Dave Myers, and
Freddie Below. Lafayette Lee.
No, well, he wasn't involved. It was just the three of us in this film. But yeah, Lafayette Lee. Yeah, exactly. And they usually had a guest with them because they weren't. They didn't have a front man. They were the side men that backed all the greats. But Dave could sing a bit. Louis could sing a bit. Lewis, I suppose. And Lewis was a fantastic jazzy blues player. And Fred Below, ka-cha, ka-cha. And you could not resist it. Of course, Dave just rocking around the back. And I love this band. So what do? So I went into London. I feel like it was the next day, but it might be 2 weeks later, whatever it was. Piccadilly Circus, massive record shop there. It was Virgin Records, it was Tower Records. It's gone now, but it was a fantastic record shop. And I went into the blues section, flipped through. There was an album, The Aces, live in Chicago with their guests. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, although at the time I thought, oh yeah, well you would, because they're obviously a band and they have an album out. Actually, they only had 2 albums ever produced, that one, and a studio album that I think Jack was also involved in, certainly Black and White labels involved in that. So I just got lucky. There was this album sitting there, I bought it, and it had Bobby King on it, Johnny Drummer on it, Joe Carter on it, and a few tracks by them. And that's still a Desert Island album for me. The sound on that album and the groove.
Was it recorded in Chicago?
It was recorded in Chicago. This is a long story, isn't it? Is this all right?
It's good, so I'm enjoying it.
It's going on a bit. Sorry, viewers. But you have to check out the Aces. And you have to check out the Storyville Records. Because what it was, this album was recorded in Chicago by a French woman called Marcel Morgantini, who was married to a guy called Jacques Morgantini, who was a big player in the Club de France, involved with Huckleberry Perry, with Hugh Panassier. The blues and jazz scene in France in the 50s was an incredible scene. And Jacques was part of it. And he was part of the southern end of it. He lived in Pau. And he promoted gigs there, and he brought all the American tourists over. T-Bone, the Aces, Muddy, everybody played on Jacques' tours, and he's got incredible cinema footage shot at the town hall in Pau of all these American greats. He's got film of who is it? Billy Branch or Billy Boy Arnold,
They've got harmonica players, aren't they?
Yeah, and the Aces running round his back garden playing with each other. And they would entertain these guys, and Marcel would cook a legendary cassoulet and these guys would stay at his house. And they loved it because it gave them work, and in France they were kings, these men. And he told the story of Hooker coming over, and Hooker's sitting at the dining table eating, they rustled up some fried chicken for Hooker. And he's there, and he's talking about it, and he's eating the chicken, chucking the bones over his shoulder onto a $5,000 carpet. Just incredible. And he's got recordings of Bilo doing a drum solo on a snare drum in his front room. And Bilo playing drum solo at all.
Fantastic.
And they were great mates. He was great friends with Marty Turner and all that. He was the French equivalent of you, basically bringing over the great bluesmen and celebrating. Anyway, his wife discovered the blues by going to one of Jack's presentations about the blues, and she was a classical music fan and came up to him and said, "Where can I hear one?" She said it in French. "Où peux je découvrir ce musique?" Whatever it might be.
4 out of 10?
Yeah. Where can I find this music? And she developed a lifelong passion, and when she had an inheritance, I think a parent died, and she inherited a considerable sum of money in the mid-70s, and Jacques said, "What are you going to do with this money?" And she said she wanted to go to Chicago and record the blues. So she spent her money creating a label called MCM, Marcel Charrier Morgantini, and she went to Chicago, into all the clubs there, helped by Jimmy Dawkins. He became a great mate of theirs. And he introduced them to all the South Side clubs, Marbia's, Teresa's, a few others, and they went into these clubs and recorded these bands, unknown bands at the time, guys like Richard, Big John Little, and I can't remember the names now.
Hubert?
Not Hubert, no, he was no. But they got Magic Slim before he was famous. They got the Aces, they got Bobby King, they got Blue Blood McMahon, Andrew, Big Voice, Odom, all these things. Live albums recorded on a little NAB tape recorder.
Oh, she didn't take it in the studios?
No, into the club, sat up in the club before the club opened, play live in the club, a few people in there so you get a bit of audience noise, and it's just a gig, and they're just jamming. And she's got these hours and hours of incredible music, classic blues, just before it began to really fall out of fashion in Chicago. It's a fantastic collection.
So how did that get you into writing?
Because I wanted to find out who this woman was, and I wanted to write. Because there was nothing on the internet.
You wanted to
nothing
write, or you wanted her money?
I wanted to write about her. I didn't want her money. And she was dead. By the time I decided to do this, she'd died about 3 years previously, but Jacques was still alive.
So, right now, are there any Americans that really stop you in your tracks?
Rod Piazza, I like.
Okay.
I like what he does. He's a showman. He's got an incredible tone on harmonica, and his band is just great. He's got Honey on the piano there. If that's still true, I haven't looked him up recently, but it's just dazzling. And I love his style, the George Smith thing, and the chromatic playing. I mean, he's not current, I suppose. Apart from that, I've got to tell you, Jim, there ain't a lot floating my boat at the moment in the blues.
That's because I feel the same way, sadly.
Yes.
So I always look with great affection towards Black American bluesmen. They're all rapping.
Yeah, it's gone a different way. And it was interesting, I don't know if it was interesting to me, I don't know if it's interesting to anybody else. I'm a massive metal fan. I'm so grateful to you for creating Black Sabbath, because they were my first metal. They were everybody's first metal. And I mean, you created it in partnership with the boys, of course. But I loved them from the first time I heard Volume 4. I know that's heresy.
Ooh, late comer.
I was a late comer, but then you go back and discover the real sound.
Yeah, of course.
I understand. But metal now is an incredible scene. My son's big into it, and he's a big performer. He's got 2 bands, Mountain Caller, Chaos Reigns. And Mountain Caller played at a big metal festival this weekend called Desert Fest. And there, it's what you call sludge, doom, stoner, which is very post.
Sludge, doom,
stoner metal, all those genres, and they are.
Are you making notes?
What is that?
Well, it's very post-Sabbath. It's very much that big tone, including one band called High Reaper, which I saw play at the Black Kite Camden, which is basically Black Sabbath, but not quite as cool. It was a bit of Spinal Tap about it. They were really good, but he sang in that Aussie style, obviously not like Ozzy, but it was a straight Sabbath thing. I mean, their own songs and all stuff, but it could have been Sabbath. And that influence runs right through now. So I love this music. Last year at Desert Fest, I discovered a whole bunch of amazing bands: Weed Eater, Five, the Hero Fan, Warning, all these bands playing this big sound. This year, it's a blues rock festival. At the Roundhouse, there were a bunch of bands: Earthless, Fu Manchu, all them witches, and it's long guitar jams, they're long solos, quoting Allman Brothers riffs, that kind of thing. I've kind of done that. It's great. I mean, it comes from a different place. It's rockier and it's cooler, if you like. But the blues rock scene in the UK and in America is so frustrating. It's just guys with guitars banging them. Where's the groove? Where's that swing? Where's that thing? Why are they playing rock music? Why call it blues? It's not blues, it's rock. I don't mind rock. I love rock music. But I don't like blues rock music because it's neither now nor summer. It's the worst of both. Am I allowed to say that? I'm going public.
You're absolutely.
And our speaker's one is in a blues rock band called Stormwarning. But we've gone more rock in our recent recordings, so look out for that, listeners.
If I have one regret, well, millions of regrets, but one regret that comes to mind talking to you, Stuart, is that I never...
You never met me in the first
place. That
place.
I never recorded Sabbath when they were Earth and they were straight ahead blues band. That would be very interesting, wouldn't it?
It would also have been incredibly valuable now. Because you told me in one of our many discussions, Ozzy was a good singer, good blues singer.
Yeah.
Was it Jimmy Rushing?
Jimmy Rushing, yeah.
First recording he made? Yeah.
Even.
Yeah. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
No, because he does so many things that are off course to attract attention. Well, I talked to Geezer's wife a couple of days ago, and she tells me Geezer's now formed his other blues band.
All rock musicians have to do their rock thing, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not at all surprised. I was just thinking that on the way up. Fast Eddie Clarke, just before he died, Motorhead, but he formed a blues band. And it was a good blues record too, he made. He was a good player. They all do it, don't they? Paul Rodgers and David Gilmour. Paul Rodgers did an album of all blues, a tribute to Muddy Waters, and worked with all these guitarists, doing all Trevor Rabin and Richie Sambora and Jeff Beck, all that stuff. But it was a rock album, and they're all doing rock. The only blues player on there was David Gilmour, and he played fantastic blues solo on there. It's still great, because it's all about the bend. And the blues exists in that bend.
Yeah.
That's where it lives. So,
well, I really enjoyed that. Has anyone got anything you'd like to ask, Stuart?
I've got a question.
Please.
Early on, you said that the Rolling Stone version of Little Red Rooster was all wrong.
yeah.
Now, I do quite like it myself.
Yeah, it's a
I
good...
know it's not like original Robert Johnson type blues,
Yeah.
but I'd just be interested to learn why. I enjoy listening to it. Why do you think it's all wrong?
Because, well, as I say, you have to accept that it's the Rolling Stones version. So
Yes.
they can do what they like, in fairness, and they took it and they... But I think they were trying to recreate what Howlin' Wolf did.
Right.
And what they do, it goes... I had a little red rooster, too lazy to crow for day. Something like that,
Yes.
from memory. But the actual song is... I had a little red rooster, too lazy to crow for day. So they've got it inside out, basically. They're going... Well, that's how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah.
They go... Right. A subtle difference, wasn't it? That subtle difference. And if you listen to Howlin' Wolf's London sessions, there's a sequence where they're going to play Red Rooster. It's got Clapton and Bill Wyman and Steve Winwood, all those guys. And he's showing them how to play it. And he's saying, you got to do it, and he's showing, because he was a great slide player, and he's showing them how to play that slide riff, because they've all just assumed it's the way the Stones did it. They've not dug in and listened to the Wolf version and heard that thing.
I haven't heard Howlin' Wolf sing it.
Oh yeah, it's a whole different story when Wolf does it. So I mean, it may be. I can't. Again, it's not for me to sit here and tell Keith Richards what to do.
It's interesting.
Yeah, he may have said, "Well, we're going to do it our way," and if that's the case,
fair enough,
exactly.
Yeah.
But something inside me thinks it's not the way.
I'll look that up anyway.
Have a listen, yeah. And listen to him talking about it, telling Clapton what to do, and Clapton being Clapton, saying, "Man, you do it, man. You should do this. Don't make us do it. You're the man." So generous. Clapton was he's a generous celebrator of the blues.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And Wolf got that voice.
I remember Wolf telling me when I was very impressed when he signed to Chess Records in Chicago. He said, "Boy, you've got to understand, I was successful and had money before I went to Chess Records." He said, "When I arrived in Chicago, I drove my own car and I had $2,000 in my pocket before I signed for Chess."
Yeah.
Very proud man.
He was and he played all his musicians. He had the best band.
Yeah.
Played all their health ticket. He was a pro, absolute pro.
So how did you move from piano to harmonica? Because you said you'd play keyboards.
Yes.
Clearly it's easier to carry to gigs.
That was one of the key considerations. You do have to bring the PA though. If you're going to be the singer, you have to bring the PA. I just got, one of the things was I started to work with better musicians and get involved in good bands, and I started playing jazz funk type stuff. And I knew that I was reaching the limits. I was either going to have to really learn to play. I couldn't just get away with busking my way through. I'd have to learn my craft properly. But I was falling deeply in love with the blues by then. I was getting bored playing keyboards, and I wanted to sing and I wanted to play harp. So I gradually sort of moved away from my keyboard commitments and picked up the harp and a microphone. And first time I played and sang, not. We're way over time here, aren't we? I should be doing the gig now, shouldn't I?
Soon.
There was a jazz band called the Crabapple Jazz Band that played in Wendover, a village near where I lived, every Sunday. And one of my mates, who was in the jazz funk band with me, played sax in that band. And he said, "Come along and sit in, in the break, stand up and sing some blues." So that was the first time I played, and I couldn't really play harp. It was all, it wasn't good, but it was. Because it was different, people really liked it. But it took me a long time to discover how to play harp, because you buy your harmonica and you think, "Oh, I'm going to sound like Sonny Boy Williamson," and you go, how does it sound like Sonny Boy? I don't get it. Yeah. And I couldn't do it, and I couldn't find a book that taught me. There's a great book called Blues Harp by Tony Glover. That's the definitive book, apart from my own book, available now from Music Sales or Wise Publications, whatever they're called now. But a mate of mine said, "Come for a weekend. I'm going to meet a mate in Norfolk, Cromer, or Sheringham, or something like that." We went away for a mad weekend with a bunch of musicians in Sheringham, and the bloke who lived out there, who had all this instrument in his house, heard me go. And he said, no, this is Alex Spall. Thank you, Alex. I don't know what I'm looking at. I think he's still alive. He said, "You got to suck." I've never forgotten that. "You got to suck." And I went, "Oh, oh my God!" And there it was. And then you just go from there. So yeah.
Did you say written a book? Did you say you've written a book about harmonica playing?
Yes, it's called The Complete Harmonica Player.
Oh, right.
A modest name.
Yes. Well, no, it wasn't my title actually. It was just a commission. Music Sales have an imprint called Wise Publications who do all the play guitar with books, these tutor books, where you buy the book and it's got all these original tracks on there, and then you have it without the guitar on it. And they do that with harmonica and other instruments as well. And I used to do the sessions, things like When the Levee Breaks and various other tracks. There's a Dylan one, where if they needed a harmonica player, because they would record the tracks completely from new, because it was cheaper to get session musicians in and recreate them than it was to license the original recording. So my mate Arthur would go in, make all the tracks, and then he'd need a harp player, and he'd get me in to play the harmonica solos on. So it was brilliant, I loved it. Learning to play Bob Dylan's solo on You're a Big Girl Now, I mean, just a fantastic solo. And then they said, well, we need a harmonica book, do you want to do it? So, yeah, but I've got to pay the flat fee, I don't get royalties, so there's no point in buying the book. It's a great book.
I just think one of my first introductions to blues harp was Jay Giles' band.
Oh, Magic Dick, Whammer Jammer.
Yeah, and that came out in what, 74, something like
that, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering whether you ever listened to that at the time.
I did at the time. I was already playing harp by then. Whammer Jammer's a bit much for me. There was I can't remember how to play it now, but it's an incredible piece of harmonica playing. Really technically brilliant. But it's all too much, you know. You don't need all that, do you? You just need. That's all you want, you know. But it is incredible. The other, the other one that I literally stopped playing for about 3 months. Mark Ford. There's a great guitar player called Robin Ford. You probably know. Yeah. His brother Mark is an incredible harp player, and he made an album with the Robin Ford band, and it's a great album. And the opening track on that is Little Walter's "Hey Baby, Take It Easy," or whatever it's called. And the harmonica playing on that is just spellbinding, brilliant, really brilliant. I thought, forget it, you know? I can't go there. And then you realise, no, come on, you play your harp your way, you know. But I recommend that track. The rest of the album, actually, after a while, it's a bit samey, but that opening track is incredible, and it's there with Whammer Jammer as an example of the pinnacle. Really, it really is great playing.
Well, I enjoyed that. Hope you all did.
I did. Thank you. Thank you very much.